What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 61. I'm your host, Marcus, and I am so happy that you are all here with me today. We've got a great episode planned for you, and really, we don't even have that much time to go because Denny and I got into a ton of stuff. We did a little bit of a variety break for this episode where we're talking about just things, just lots and lots of things. So stay tuned for that. It's going to come up here in a little bit. Things, I might say, is like we talk about how handy Denny is, whether or not he could fix some things on the truck when they went wrong. And we even read kind of a heartfelt Facebook post going back to, I believe, the year 2020, which is interesting because it's a little chunk of our history that people kind of try to forget, and rightfully so. It sucked eggs. But it's an interesting post because it brings us to being able to look back on that time from the present and kind of understand, yeesh, we were in some trouble. We weren't doing that great as a nation. Anyway, stay tuned for that coming up in a little bit. First, we are going to talk to H&M driver Brian Burge. Now, Brian runs, or is the moderator, I guess is the way to look at it, for the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page. Now, it's not run by the company. This is a private page. It is, of course, on a public forum, as everything on Facebook is, but you got a request to join. I had to go through they had to beat me in. I didn't just get to walk there and say what's up. I had to go through like a shin-kicking line. Not really. They're not going to do anything other than just let you in the group. But Brian puts up with it, man. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in that group, and we're going to bring Brian on to talk about kind of the focus of the group, why the group is a group, and there's been some strife over the past few weeks, and we're going to chat with him about that as well. So all in all, a really good episode planned for you today. But first, before we do anything else, because I haven't been good about this lately, I have, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 new drivers to introduce to you today, joining the H&M Trucking fleet. First up is Joshua Butler from Clarksdale, Mississippi. He is an OTR driver. Welcome, Joshua Butler. Glad to have you. Jason Blankenship is our second driver from Reeford, North Carolina, and is an OTR hopper driver. Glad to have you, Jason. Welcome to the party. I know I'm going to mess up his name, and I should have asked somebody how to say it. I am so sorry to you, Jashawn Butler. Jashawn, I hope it's Jashawn Butler. From Houston, Texas, he's an OTR van driver. We got a round of applause for him, even though I can't pronounce his name. And that's not on you, by the way. If you're listening to this right now, that's on me. I'm paid to talk, not so good on the whole reading thing. And finally, we've got Julian Bowles from Tampa Bay, Florida, OTR van driver. Thank you for joining the best trucking fleet in the land, H&M Trucking. A round of applause for you all getting through orientation and getting out there on the road. And now you know what it is. It's party time because now you are on the team that everybody so gratefully wants to be on. I mean, it's crazy. I got people calling me left and right. I'm beating them off with a stick right now. We don't have enough trucks. We actually do. We've got some trucks. If you're interested in this, if you're sitting there going, man, I'd like a job in trucking, I have some experience, or maybe you don't, look around. Obviously, there's a lot of good options out there, okay? But there's only so many with their own podcast, which is why I recommend H&M Trucking. Can you tell I've done a few ad reads in my day? All right, I'm all done with the fun stuff. Well, actually, this is kind of a fun podcast episode just in and of itself, all right? We're going to get into it. Let's talk about the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
You know, Denny, back when I first got on Facebook, and this is going to date me a little bit, you still had to have a college-associated or a university-associated email address to even join Facebook. If you were not a member with a school that had a school email address that was also affiliated with Facebook, you couldn't even get a profile. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Yep.
You're older than me then, huh?
I guess so, man. I guess so. I was also one of Tom's only friends on MySpace, if that matters. But
I remember old Tom.
Yeah, we were all friends with Tom, right? Whatever happened to that guy?
I got a modem back in the day. I mean, way back in the day. And back then, you could get the Library of Congress and a few different universities around. And one time I wanted to download a simple calendar so you could print off a calendar. You know, you could say, okay, I want a calendar for 1986. I started it at midnight. It was still downloading at 10 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah, the old days of the internet were a real battlefield. And trust me, it largely hasn't gotten a lot better in a lot of places, but we're working on it. And, glad to be here where we are today. Actually, wouldn't be having this conversation we're having today if Facebook wouldn't have turned into what it did. And joining us today on the show is H&M driver Brian Burge. Brian, thank you so much for being here today, my friend. First time on the podcast. Welcome in.
Thank you.
Now, you're here to talk a little bit about Facebook with us today, Brian, because the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page, again, H&M Trucking Friends, want to make sure and get that right, is actually run by you and one other gentleman. Is that correct?
Well, technically, it's pretty much just run by me. Trent was running it. I took it over about a year and a half ago when Trent put out a post saying that he really didn't have time to devote to it anymore and was looking for someone to take it over, and nobody stepped up. And I do have quite a bit of experience, managing a large online forum. So I went ahead and told him I would take care of it.
Now, you did tell me a little bit about your history. When you're talking large online forum, you're talking about really large, right? I mean, you mentioned you had a forum going with like 100,000 people in it or something like that?
I think when I left, we were getting close to 150,000.
Wow.
It was, at the time, it was the world's largest e-cigarette forum. It was back in close to 15 years ago when, electronic cigarettes were starting to become really popular. And I was trying to quit at the time, and I kind of got into all of that. And, at first I was just a member, and they were asking people to become moderators. And so, I volunteered for that. And after a while, our forum manager had to step down, and, I offered to take his place. I have background in computers. I used to do fixing computers, building computers. We also did, networking and things like that I did that for a living for a little while. So that kind of helped.
For sure. Well, I mean, look, I've managed a Facebook page before with 25,000 followers, so a far sight from your experience. But what I can tell you from my experience is that 25,000 was around 24,500 too many, in my opinion, to try to keep a lid on all of the crazy stuff that went on. And if I could give you a time machine, Brian, would you go back a year and a half and change your mind about the decision you made to take over H&M Trucking Friends, or are you still happy that you made that decision?
Well, I mean, I'm not really excited about, running the page or anything like that. It's just that, somebody needed to step up, because I think that group really needs to be there for people. And it's not like I have to spend 8 hours a day or more, taking care of it. I get up in the morning, take a look at it for 5 minutes, see if anybody needs to be approved for membership, or see if anything bad was posted overnight. And then, when I do my 30-minute break, I'll hop on for another 10, 15 minutes. And then after I shut down, I'll get on a few times and, just kind of take care of things. It doesn't take a lot of time because, our membership is pretty small. I think we only have like 1,300 members or something like that.
Wow.
So it was worse before we went private.
Right.
Because a lot of spam and bots that were coming in posting just nasty things.
Sure. Oh, it's a full-time job to try to keep that stuff off the page. And I'm glad to hear that your time investment isn't overwhelming. But you touched on something else there, Brian. And Denny, I want you to comment on this too after I pose this to Brian here. But It's something that I kind of wanted to dig into a little bit is the value of the page and why it's actually there. I'm a member of the page. I see a lot of people sharing their experiences, asking questions, helping one another out. What, in your mind, Brian, is the best use of the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page for everybody that's a member?
Well, I think, it's I guess, like you said, people can ask questions or, just share funny things or, share, we got tornadoes coming in Omaha or, things like that. It's just, people kind of getting together and, maybe unwinding a little bit.
So a little bit more for pleasure than for work, or at least just to kind of bleed the stresses of the day away, not necessarily serving as a function of like, hey, come here and we'll get it fixed. Because this isn't sponsored by the company at all, right? This is something you guys are doing out of your own free time and your own free will.
Yeah. I believe, the page was created back in 2016. If I remember correct, and I wish Trent was here to kind of, he would probably know for sure, but I think it was created by another driver. And then Trent took it over from them. I could be wrong. I'm not quite sure. But, it's not a company-run page at all. It's just started by a driver, I think, and an employee of H&M, just, for our own benefit.
Sure. Denny, I know you're a member of the page. At least I think you are. Do you see the benefit of this as a retired driver? Obviously, you've seen some of the things that goes up on the page, and whether or not you actually got to use this during your time with H&M or you're just seeing it now, what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. I've been a member for a long time. And exactly what Brian said. It's, to me, the usefulness as far as I was concerned personally was, communicating between drivers, hey, I heard that you can park at this place overnight. Is that true? You could get answers to those kind of things. And weather updates were great. I didn't use it because I wanted to keep my private life private. But if somebody wanted to stay in communication with their family, I see some on there almost every day that say, well, we're picking up here, we're going there. I assume to let family and friends know, hey, this is where we are in the world. So it serves that purpose as well. But I think it's a great thing to have. I'd hate to lose it. I don't want to moderate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask you if you wanted to.
No, I mean,
I don't want to fight those battles, and my hat's off to you for stepping up to do it, because somebody has to. But I've seen so many people that they want to turn it into a political discussion. They want to turn it into their bitch session, and that's not, to me, that's a turn off. I would stop using it if it turned into that. So we need a moderator.
We do. And Brian, I want to ask you that. How do you kind of balance the positivity versus negativity on the page? Sometimes I see people doing just like what Denny said. Hey, can you park here? Yeah, you can go there. You can go around the corner. There's a good spot. But then I also see, especially recently, there's been some stuff on there about some griping about drivers not cleaning out their trailers and causing other drivers some time spent having to do that after it should have already been done. I assume you're only putting up there the stuff that is appropriate enough in scope to not get everybody in hot water somewhere. But is that a tough job, the positive versus negative posts, or do you just kind of let them go if they're from a driver and see what happens afterwards?
Well, you kind of have to look at things on a case-by-case basis. I mean, it's one thing to come on and kind of complain about something within the rules. The rules have been in place pretty much, long before me. And number one is, be nice to each other, be nice, just don't come in with, big negative attitude, talking trash about the company or other group members, or obviously not all of our members are drivers. If all of our members were just drivers, believe me, it would probably be a different place. But we have H&M employees, we have friends of employees, family members, and, it's not like I'm checking anybody's age when they join. Mm-hmm. So you got to kind of keep it family friendly, I believe. If you come on and complain about, people not cleaning out trailers or something like that, as long as they do it within the rules and aren't calling certain people out or getting vulgar or anything about it, it's fine. We don't want people bad mouthing, like I said, other members, because that just starts a big fight and things get out of hand. And it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. We don't want people bad mouthing the company because, for quite a few different reasons. That's going to start a big fight between members. It's happened before. And you don't want the company seeing that. If you're bad mouthing the company online, what's to stop them from calling you in the office and saying you're fired?
Yeah.
They have the right to do that because you're making them look bad online. I would think I've heard stories of other companies doing that.
Oh, for sure. It's a private group, but it's a public forum. So that's something people have to understand is other people are going to see this stuff. I mean, look, you do a great job keeping it cleaned up. My mom's in the group. I think that was a mistake. I think she meant to follow the actual H&M Trucking page, but you guys let her in, and I think that's a good example. I'm not worried about her being in there because you do such a good job moderating it, but I think people should understand that you don't always stand between them and the company. Should the company see something that is cross on there or is inappropriate, post it about the company. I should clarify.
Right. And I really don't want anybody from the company calling me and saying, hey, this person is talking trash about, do something about it. It's never happened. It's never happened. But I really don't want to be put in that position either,
Yeah.
That if somebody's talking, really bad about the company, I just don't want to deal with it. But, you kind of have to be a bit of a dictator when you're running a page. Same thing was happening when I was running a forum. You have rules in place. There are reasons for the rules being in place. That people aren't going to understand why certain rules are in place, but they are in place for a reason. And I don't have time to explain myself every action that I do.
Sure. So, there's no hall of shame where the comment that somebody made that got them banned from the page gets memorialized forever. Kind of the point of getting those people out is that they don't get to take part anymore. They can't post that stuff anymore. And like I said, another tip of the cap from me and Denny here, I think, because neither one of us would want this job. And you do a really good job of it. But here recently, I know that there was a purpose behind this. I saw a post that you'd made that was asking people, hey, do you want me to step down as moderator here? What was behind that post? Did you kind of have your belly full? Were you proving a point? Because you sound like you're still the guy, and we're glad to hear it. But I was worried that there was going to be a mutiny on the ship when I saw that, Brian, and I was concerned. Obviously, it went well. I think only one idiot voted for you to step down, and at least all I saw. So talk to me a little bit about that post. What was that all about?
I think at the end, it was actually 5 people that voted against me.
Ban them. Get them out.
No. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's fine.
I guess.
At the time, I had exactly 2 people that were giving me a hard time because I had banned somebody for coming in and, like I said, they were complaining about something, but they took it a bit too far with saying things about the company and then saying things to another driver who kind of gave them a little bit of pushback. And, they were coming at me, and I made that post for a reason to kind of show that they were in the minority. That most people, most of the group members are happy with the way things are, with the rules that are in place. And they were coming at me. They don't see everything that goes into the decisions I make when I have to ban somebody. It's not just one thing they did. It's usually more, and they don't see all that. All they see is that I banned somebody that they like, maybe, or stuff like that. But, then they're coming at me publicly, and that's another big rule that, I carried over from when I was running a forum that, I had a staff of moderators back then. And the big rule there was you don't come after these moderators that are volunteering their time. They're not getting paid to do this. And some of those guys were putting in, quite a bit of hours to basically keep the place running. And I wouldn't allow anybody to, trash talk them. And I don't have the time in the day to explain myself, what's going on. I don't have time to get into big discussions about things. I'm going to come across as a bit of a dictator. I don't like to, but when I make a decision, it's got to be final. So I don't have time to get into the big details or, spend time talking to people and, oh, please don't do this and blah, blah, blah. So it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. I'm not going to lie.
I am not surprised. Denny, I'm sure you're not surprised either. I see you shaking your head. This is, just the fact that you were even willing, you kind of told us, Brian, is like somebody needed to step up, so I stepped up. I'm sure you've done that a lot in your life. I'm sure that's just the person that you are. I like to be that person. Ain't no way in hell I'm stepping up for this. So I think Denny agrees with me.
Absolutely. These guys causing problems wouldn't want me to be the moderator, because if there wasn't a rule, I'd make it a rule. If you trash talk the company or you cuss somebody and pick a fight on here, I'm forwarding this to your dispatcher. Thank you very much.
There you have it.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you. I'll let H&M Trucking know what you're saying about them. And that would either shut them up or get them. Anyway, I'd probably get shot. That's what would happen.
Maybe
a lot of times,
the page wouldn't be as friendly as it is with Brian there, but, go ahead, Brian.
A lot of times people don't seem to understand that, I don't just ban somebody at the drop of a hat or something like that. There's usually, I talk to them beforehand, told them, please, don't do that, or you can't do that. And they continue to do it. And, I might have deleted a comment they made or a post they made before and said, got with them, said, you can't do that. That's against the rules. I think the last big go around we had was like 4 months ago, and two drivers were really getting into it with each other. And, I gave them so many chances. Let's see, tell them, you don't do that. This is not the place for it, blah, blah, blah. Ended up one time, suspending them for a week. And then they came back and started all over again. I suspended them for a month. And then they came back and really went off the deep end. I said, okay, no more chances.
Yeah.
You don't learn. Okay. You obviously don't want to be here because I told you what would happen.
Right. Right.
And then they come at me, in Messenger, I'm not understanding why they're banned from the group. Well, I gave you all the chances in the world and you just, didn't listen.
Sure. Well, I think, it's important to remember this could go as far as to affecting recruiting or something like that. If there was nothing but negative stuff on the page and only drivers bickering with each other and making fun of each other, that doesn't put the company in the light that you would hope somebody that wants to work for the company would find it. And this is a place where a lot of drivers are going to go to do research, whether or not they happen to stumble upon this group or somebody tells them about it or they just find it in a random search. They're going to look, they're going to do their research. And I think the picture that you paint of H&M's culture is a good one. And I think that it's an accurate one, Brian, because let's face it, and maybe you'll agree with me here, maybe you won't. Denny, you can chime in too, but H&M's a good place to work. People like working for H&M. People don't come here and generally spend their entire career with H&M pissed off and hating everybody. It's a fun place to work. It's a good place to work. There's a lot of good people. And I think what I see here, Brian, like I said, is you're kind of working hard to paint that picture on this page as well.
No, I'm not. That's not my purpose. To be completely honest.
Please.
Now I love H&M. I've been here with H&M for about 10 years now. It's the best company I've worked for. They've come and helped me out when I really needed it. I had a medical emergency down in Texas a couple of years ago, and they really stepped up and helped me out. And a lot of companies wouldn't do that. It doesn't matter what company, and Denny can probably confirm this, it doesn't matter how good a trucking company is. some drivers are going to have an issue with it.
Yeah.
And, they're going to complain and blah, blah, blah. And other drivers are going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. This place is great, But and a lot of times when, drivers are complaining about a company, it's usually because, well, they're probably not good employees, to be honest. But I'm not saying that's the case here.
Mm-hmm.
H&M has been great. I love working here. I could go anywhere and make more money, but I choose to stay here because the way they treat me, I'm happy working here. But my purpose with the page is more like just a place for, drivers or employees or even friends and family can come and just kind of, have fun, enjoy themselves, maybe share something funny or share some info that will help somebody else out. That's my purpose. I don't think we're here to make the company look good. The company does that by themselves. They're really good about that. But
sure. Maybe you're not taking an active role in it, I guess. That was poorly stated by me, but you're not taking an active role in it. It's just that the company will look like that if the page operates as it should, which is a place for people to come and have fun and share information and generally be nice to each other. That probably sums it up a little better.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you look online and research any trucking company, you're going to see negative things by certain people. I mean, it's just the way the industry is.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the trucking industry right now is in bad shape. You got companies going under left and right. Freight is really slow. The rates are really terrible. People are going to want to complain, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the company. It's just, some people are going to, I'm not getting the miles. Well, nobody is out here getting miles right now. I've talked to drivers from other companies that are in so much worse shape than we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think H&M's actually done a really good job of, at least on the van side. I can't speak for the hopper side, but I've been busy. I had an amazing week last week. I don't know how, but yeah, but even then I can still definitely see the way the freight market right now has been affecting the trucking industry.
Sure.
And I can understand, some drivers are going to be frustrated about it, but I don't think it's H&M's fault. I don't really think it's fair to come on and bash H&M. It's an industry-wide problem at the moment.
Absolutely. No, I hear you there, and well put. Denny, before we let Brian go here, I want to give you the chance because I've kind of been driving the ship on this one. Is there anything else you wanted to ask Brian about the page or running it or anything like that before we let him go?
No, I just want to offer kudos because Brian pretty much summed it up, and I think he's got the right mental state to the thought process into it. That no, he's just a moderator. He's not here to make it one way or another. He's just controlling like you say, there are people going to bitch about everything. There are people, and we all know them, those type of people that nothing is ever their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And those are the kind of people that are going to post negative. I'm like Brian, 10 plus years with H&M, well over 1 million miles. And I enjoyed my time. That's why I stayed with H&M so long. And I personally have seen a number of times over these years that somebody has come on, they say, I'm talking to recruiting at H&M. What is the company like? Or I just signed on, I'm headed for orientation. Is it really as nice as they make it out to be? And they get those answers from drivers. And there's probably, you see a list of a dozen responses. There's liable to be one or two of them in there going, nah, that company sucks. I had to leave. But then you see that, the multitude, 90%, 95% are saying, yeah, it's a great place. I've been here for 10 years. I've been here for 5 years. So they're getting the answers. It's a good page to have, and I'm glad it's there. I'm glad somebody is willing to take on the task because no, I would not do it. I don't know how you have the time. I mean, after driving all day, fix you something to eat, take the dog for a walk. I'm ready to lay back, watch something on TV, and go to sleep. I don't want to be dealing with this shit, but thank God you are.
Well, right now, Denny, we're actually this shit because we're keeping Brian from going to sleep right now at the end of his day. So technically dealing with this shit is dealing with us. And Brian, we really appreciate you coming on for some time here right at the end of your day. Is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody that might be listening, whether it be people that are involved with H&M Trucking Friends or anybody involved with the company or anybody else that might be listening? Floor is yours.
No, I think we pretty much said it all. Like I said, I want to keep the page as, some friendly place to be. Those rules have been in place since before I even joined the group. Be nice. That's all I pretty much want out of anybody there.
Yeah.
Make it a good, enjoyable place to come and, spend your time.
Be nice. It's a pretty basic function. I would learn it if you haven't figured it out yet. It'll keep you, I guess, posting on Facebook pages for a lot longer period of time, right?
Yeah. It's just a great way to go about life, if you ask me.
Well,
be nice to other people,
Yeah, but there's bad apples in every bunch, or at every truck stop, however you want to put it. Look at it, right?
Yeah, and that's why I don't hang out in driver's lounges.
Yeah, Denny either.
Yep. By the
All
way,
right.
tell Trent I'm sorry we missed him. I wish he'd have made this one because I haven't talked to him since I left. But Trent's always treated me right. Such a great guy.
He's a great guy. He's busy. I know that for sure. Really hard to get a hold of, and that's probably for good reason. They need him in the shop more than we need him on the podcast.
Well, besides that, he's a volunteer firefighter.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was a volunteer firefighter back in the late 80s.
Nice.
Not for long. Not for long.
I was a volunteer and a fully paid firefighter back in the early 80s. So I guess that's why Brent and I had something in common. We talked from time to time, but yeah.
Well, look at that. You guys got something in common. Couple of volunteer firefighters and paid firefighters. I'm afraid of ladders. I think that we all have something in common here today. That's great. All right, Brian, we're going to get off here and let you go. Get some sleep. Keep running hard out there. We appreciate everything you're doing for both H&M and the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page. And more than anything, we just appreciate the time. We want to do everything we can to help H&M in every way that we can. And I feel like this was a long overdue conversation with you because we use that page a lot to get information about things for the podcast. So thank you very much for running it. Thank you for being here. Keep the shiny side up out there, okay?
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Safety Director Dean Edmonds says, "What's that beeping? It's your following distance, not your girlfriend backing up." Beep, beep, beep. Okay, here's a few reminders to keep you safe. Drive safely. Excessive speed reduces your ability to avoid a crash, extends your vehicle's stopping distance, and increases the severity of a crash if it occurs. So, slow down. That's tough on us, isn't it? Be aware of other drivers. Never forget that far too many other drivers are sharing the road with you, might be inattentive or driving distracted, and avoid aggressive driving. Don't provoke or allow yourself to be provoked. If another driver is driving aggressively, don't take the bait. Just simply try to stay out of their way. I know it's hard to ignore them. Y'all be careful out there. We want you to get home safe.
I'm joined here on the H&M Trucking Podcast by my buddy Denny Stone. Denny, thanks for being in here today. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
I can't complain because long ago I learned that absolutely no one is listening. So that's kind of where I go with that, Denny. I do have something I want to bring to your attention here, something that's gone a little bit viral over the last couple of days within the trucking community. And I'm not bringing it up because I want to debunk it or anything like that. I want to make myself real clear here before we get to this. There is a video of Joe Biden that's been going viral here over the last week. And the quote that every truck driver and every owner of a trucking company and every third-party logistics guy, everyone in the industry is tacking onto this quote because it's pretty profound and pretty weighty, Denny. But what Joe Biden said that's going viral is, quote, "Every trucker out there with an 8th grade or a high school education knows they're likely to not have a job in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years." Just before we get into really breaking this down, what does that mean to you when you hear the current sitting president of the United States say every trucker with an 8th grade or high school education knows they're not likely to have a job in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, Denny?
Can I say I think he's an idiot?
Of course. You're
'Cause
a
obviously
red-blooded American.
We've got merchandise and things that need to move around the country, and the logistics and the, the self-driving trucks, autonomous, all of that, that's not there. So it's just not going to happen. That's, I don't know. I guess maybe he didn't do his research, or the quote is out of context, or previous statement. He's an idiot.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to blend all three of those things. Let's not pull any punches here. But I think you touched on a really big point there, and that is, are we taking this in context? We love to get over the moon angry about things that are taken out of context because we can make them mean something that they might not have meant in the moment. I can't speak for what Joe Biden meant when he said this quote that is going viral. What I do want everybody to understand is the reason that we're seeing this again, because this is not a 2024 quote. It's not even a 2020 quote. It's actually a quote from 2019. Before Joe Biden was ever president of the United States, before COVID was ever a thing, which, let's face it, COVID reset a lot of people's opinion of the trucking industry. Because if it wouldn't have reset your opinion, you still wouldn't know where toilet paper comes from. So understand that this was before the world fell apart and we kind of had to put it back together. But I think the reason that this is going viral now, Denny, is because we're 5 years from when he said that. And it's actually, I think that it put in context here, what we understand is that obviously some politicians had some very starry-eyed ideas for the future of trucking back in 2019. And what this quote gives us the opportunity to do is look back and see what they were thinking in 2019 and apply it to 2024, which is where you really hit the nail on the head. Autonomous trucks, electric trucks, hydrogen-powered trucks. The infrastructure is not there. And in 2019, they clearly thought it was going to be.
Sure.
and I mean, I think it's you're just reading between the lines of your response there, Denny. Is we're sitting here 2024 feeling like nothing has really changed since 2019. They are no closer to having that infrastructure in place, or at least in place at scale, than what they were 5 years ago. So it does kind of make this a bit of I'll stop short of saying an idiotic comment, and I will say an uninformed comment by what would become the president of these United States.
And the timing of the quote, kind of suspicious, because we're in an election year. So they're all looking at that and boom, here's a quote that looks bad on Biden.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I'm not picking sides here. You support whoever you want, but yeah.
Right. It's dirty laundry time for presidential candidates. This is what we get from January to November every election year. You're exactly right. Let's find everything that this person said dating all the way back to the first time there was a camera in their face, and let's take it all out of context and see how terrible we can make it. The one thing I like about election years are the mudslinging ads. I take them as entertainment. I don't try to learn anything from them. It's just, for me, it's 30 seconds of good TV is how I'll put it. So welcome to
our opposite. I'm like, when is this shit going to be over?
So what we actually wanted to talk about, we've got a bunch of stuff that we're going to get to in this segment here. Denny's got some tips on some things to keep on the truck that might help you out in a pinch. We're also going to talk some truck stop safety, and we've got a Facebook post that we're going to share with you a little bit later on. But there's been a segment in the back of my mind, Denny, for a long time that I wanted to bring up with you, because I don't know if you specifically did this, but a lot of drivers that I talk to are guys that they don't want to waste the time in getting the truck into the shop and sitting there for however long until XYZ is fixed. And I've heard drivers, talk about this with things like small running lights, or maybe a hose or something like that they can fix while they're out there on the road, take them 10, 15 minutes to knock it out and get right back up to driving. Were you like that at all? Are you very handy when it comes to being able to fix one of these giant machines if you blow a hose or some light comes on and something stops working, Denny?
No.
I've loved your short, succinct, to the point answers today so far. It's been great.
I can fix very simple stuff.
Okay.
So that's why my toolkit was fairly small. because if it was anything major, it needs to go to the shop.
Okay.
That being said, there are some things that can be done. And there are quick fixes that'll keep you on the road until you can get back. And there are many, many times that I would do one of those to get me back to Omaha rather than having to spend the entire day at a TA or, a Love's or something, a Speedco, because they don't get in any hurry. So, if I could fix it and limp it back to Omaha, I know the guys in the shop, there's a great team. They'll get on it. They'll get it fixed. They'll get it fixed right. Almost always right the first time. So yeah, there are quick fixes that I would do, but that was a temporary thing.
Right.
Unless it was something minor. And that's something that's on my list is like fuses and bulbs. I can change a bulb, so I would always keep extras on hand. And when I was driving, the guys in the shop didn't have any problem loading me up with extra fuses and extra bulbs. I could change out a blinker or whatever. But no, I'm not mechanical. That gene skipped a generation. My dad could fix anything. My son can fix anything. But me, I just wind up with bloody knuckles and cussing.
I get you, Denny. You and I are kindred spirits in that, right. My dad, same way, could fix anything. He built a whole addition on the house. I helped him build said addition on the house. Could not build you a ragtag shed out of my bare hands now. So
you're talking about woodworking and carpentry. That's a whole different subject. That's not internal combustion engines.
Right. I guess I'm just looking at this as kind of a general thing, is where those people that do that have that gene where they can fix anything. They can work with wood, they can work with iron, they could weld you a set of stairs, or they could take it apart and rebuild it for you. It's just not me. I'd like to. I can change the tires on my car. I've changed the oil on my car before. Windshield wipers, fixing lights, that type of stuff. I get it. But, fan belts, this type of thing, hoses, that type of thing starts to really worry me a little bit. But I do have one that actually happened and saved me in a pretty hairy situation. I was driving downtown Eugene, and I pulled into the bank, and when I hit the ramp that took you off the surface street into the parking lot, everything in my truck shut off, Denny. Everything. The engine went dead. All the electronics went dead. There was not even a click when I turned the key. I thought immediately the alternator's gone. I have got no power here. I can't do anything in this truck. I was able to push it into a parking spot, and a gentleman with a real beat-up 1980s motorhome towing a trailer full of scrap metal pulled up and started helping me. And he actually had one of those diagnostic computers that he can plug in and see what's wrong. And he said, well, yeah, I can't, nothing's coming up on the computer because you don't have any power. And he said, you might need a new alternator, but he said, first, I want you to do me a favor. And I said, okay, what? It's like 100 degrees outside. He goes, can you go over to Rite Aid over there in the parking lot and get me a Coca-Cola? And I said, you want me to just buy you a Coke? Like, can we move this along? I'd do more than buy you a Coke. I'll hand you $20 just for your trouble today. He goes, no, I want to do something with it. So I went and got him the Coke, brought it back. In the meantime, he had pulled the battery cables off of my terminal, and he just poured this Coke all over the top of my battery and took a rag and started cleaning the terminals with it. Fired it up. Everything was fine, Denny. I still haven't replaced the alternator in that pickup, and that was years ago. I just had some dirty battery terminals, and Coca-Cola will actually clean those off for you. Did you know that? I mean, I know it's a pretty rudimentary, farmed fix, but wow, that changed my life.
That's farm fix, yep. Coca-Cola is an amazing product. I don't know if you know country music, but Teddy Gentry, the guitarist for the group Alabama. He used to have a home in Destin, and I was on the radio there. And, well, do we have time for a story?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Alabama was playing in Pensacola. We went over for the concert, and next morning I'm on the radio talking about the show and everything. And smart mouth me said something to the effect of, if Teddy gets any bigger, he's going to have trouble reaching the guitar strings. Well, my phone rings. I picked it up. Is this Denny? Yes, sir. Denny, this is Teddy Gentry.
Oh, wow.
I guess you didn't know I had a place in Destin, did you? Like, no. Anyway, we wound up kind of being sort of friends. He vacationed down there often, and he would always check with me, usually on the day he was leaving, because, he didn't want everybody to know he was in town. I get this, but he would always touch base and say how you doing and what they're up to. Anyway, but he was great at barbecue, grilling, smoking. That was all his thing. He loved it. And one day he teased me about it for months before he finally told me his secret marinade recipe, Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I've
heard that.
I mean, nothing else. Just no salt, pepper, spices, not grinding up stuff like I do for dry rub. No, he just puts it in a Tupperware, puts Coke all over it, and lets it sit overnight. So, yeah, Coca-Cola is an amazing thing.
It's amazing. It really is. And, the other one that you can use for that, I've done this before with pork butt, is Dr. Pepper. I don't know.
That's a Texas thing. We love our Dr. Pepper.
Okay, so that's something that you probably heard of before. It really is. It's even like soda, cola, if you will. Those cola flavor. Root beer is another one that people will marinate stuff in. But, it blows me away that people ever figure this out. Whoever poured Coca-Cola on a battery to clean the terminals the first time? And why are they not in a Hall of Fame somewhere where we can go thank them? Because I probably would have been out $600, $800 Denny parts labor if I would have just gone ahead and bit the bullet and replaced the alternator, and all we needed was a $2 bottle of Coca-Cola. It's pretty phenomenal, and I've been looking up some of these. I have one here. I found this on the Chicago Tribune where they did an article where they were answering questions with a mechanic. And one of the questions, because I've got this in my notes from 2 years ago talking to H&M about different episode topics and ideas, and I wrote down the word pantyhose. And I have no idea why I would have written down the word pantyhose, but I went down a Google rabbit hole, started searching a bunch of related terms to trucking and pantyhose, and I came up with this Q&A. Yeah, exactly. It says here, question, I've heard ladies' silk stockings can be used as an emergency fan belt. Is this true or false? The mechanic says true. Silk or nylon pantyhose can be used in emergencies in vehicles that have V-belts. Position the pantyhose around the pulleys and tie them in a knot and drive the car to the closest garage. Pantyhose cannot be used as an emergency belt in cars that have serpentine belts because they don't have grooves to follow the belt's path. But they can be used for other auto emergencies. For example, use a pair of pantyhose under a windshield wiper arm if the blade falls off. Wrap them around the arm a couple of times and tie a knot. When the wipers are on, the pantyhose help clean the windshield and protect the glass from being scratched by the metal wiper arm. This article, Denny, dates all the way back to 1990, believe it or not. So this might be not as effective with today's technology as it was in the 90s. But yeah, you can use pantyhose if you're comfortable carrying them on your truck and don't think anybody's going to find them and ask questions. You can use them to do this.
You hear this, if you have a CB radio, you hear this almost everywhere you go. There's some guy on there that goes, I ain't got no panties on. So I guess he would be the one to go get the pantyhose from.
Yeah, obviously he's got a problem with his V-belt, if that's the case, right? I love it. I love it.
Thank you for the chuckle today.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to tell you here is, at the very least, don't trust me, because I'm a pantyhose and Coca-Cola guy. I'm not going to have a toolkit that's going to help you if you break down on the road. I'd love to stop and give you moral support.
Marcus is a pantyhose and Coca-Cola guy.
I mean, it sounds like a hell of a Wednesday night when you think about it, Denny.
Oh, boy.
As long as I don't have somebody buried in a hole in my basement telling them to put the lotion on, this is all legal, right? Oh man. Boy. Moving on to you've brought some a list of some things here. You've got a ton of notes. I don't even need to introduce what you're about to talk about. I'm going to let you do it while I suss out everything I just said in my head, okay?
Okay. Well, when you told me about the topic, and I got to thinking, okay, I'm not mechanical. What can I contribute? I came up with a list of, at least for me, the essentials I kept on the truck, things that I didn't want to leave without. And if you'd like, I can send a copy of this. They can put it on the podcast or, link or whatever. But Here we go. Here's the three big ones: zip ties, duct tape, and WD-40.
Which Take
In fact,
those
when
anywhere.
a big bird hit my visor thing, the fairing that goes across the top of the windshield, knocked it off. It's dangling by wires. The only thing holding it on were the wires for the lights. I'm in the middle of nowhere, Montana or Wyoming or something. So doubling up zip ties and wrapping those around got me back to the terminal. Like I said, a quick fix till they could replace it. Electrical tape. You may need to, like you're replacing a marker light or something, you may need some electrical tape. Of course, your tire pressure gauge. I always kept a tire plug kit.
Good idea.
Guys at the shop might shoot me for saying that, but when I found out Love's wasn't going to be able to fix that tire until the next day, and it was still holding air when I pulled in there, I went inside the Love's, bought a tire plug kit, I did it without taking the tire off, and it ran till I got back to Omaha again. So it's a simple thing. A crowbar. Multiple times I've had to take signs, these big like gas station and convenience store signs and haul those. And what they do is they nail those things into the floor of the trailer. And you got these nails that don't want a little 12-inch claw hammer ain't going to get those nails out. So I stopped in Spokane, Washington. I was unloading. I walked across the street to a great big hardware store and bought the biggest crowbar they had. I think that thing's 3 or 3.5 feet long.
And that's a good idea in Spokane.
To pull those nails.
Yeah, and that's a good idea in Spokane, Washington, too, because then you can also basically have yourself a multi-use tool and you can defend yourself while you walk around the streets of Spokane, because not a great place to be.
Okay. Hammer, screwdrivers, vice grips, channel locks, crescent wrench. I'd carried a small socket set. Don't know that it ever did me any good because I'm not mechanical. But if you got vice grips, channel locks, and a crescent wrench, you can get nuts loose.
Yeah.
Bolt cutters. So you don't have to go in some warehouse and wait around while somebody finds a bolt cutter so you can open the doors and get backed in so they can unload you. Have a set of bolt cutters on you. Shears. And I'm talking about those big industrial strength. They don't cost much at like Harbor Freight, but they cut almost anything. Mm-hmm. So those. I carried a broom. Guys now are carrying leaf blowers, but something to clean out your trailer. Like I mentioned before, extra fuses and bulbs, oil, coolant, anti-gel, washer fluid. Here's another trick. Again, the guys in the shop may disagree with me, but it didn't make sense to me to spend $5 a gallon for washer fluid when during bug season, I'm going through 2-3 gallons of it a day. So I kept a little Dawn dish soap on the truck. I'd refill that jug, squirt some Dawn in it, shake it up, washer fluid all summer long. I did use the regular washer fluid wintertime because I didn't want it freezing up. I didn't want, busting tubes or anything.
Now, I've got a good little mix that will work for you for bugs, too. If you're going through one of those places where they're just stuck and they're getting baked on because you don't have windshield wipers on, they're hitting, the sun dries them out. I spent a small amount of time as a detail boy working at an auto dealership when I was in high school, and what we used was a 50-50 mix of white vinegar and isopropyl alcohol. And we would keep that stuff in a spray bottle because you don't need much of it. What you need is what you have, good washer fluid. Spray that vinegar alcohol mixture on it, let it soak for a couple of seconds, and then hit it with your wiper fluid, and it'll rinse it all clean. You won't have those crazy streaks. Alcohol is a phenomenal cleaning agent, and I'm really surprised I've slept on it for as long as I have. But get yourself a squirt bottle, 50-50, vinegar, alcohol, and it will really help with bugs.
Good idea. All right. Gojo or some kind of like that gritty hand cleaner. Because if you go to messing with stuff, you got something under the trailer you're having to fix, your hands are going to be nasty. Keep some of that on there. And on the same tone, hand sanitizer and wipes, those wet wipes, paper towels, water. And along with water, I'll say, at least something to eat. If you get stuck at a shipper or receiver, have jar of peanut butter and some bread or something. I mean, just anything, just because you're going to get hungry.
Yeah.
Load locks. Now, I know we have straps, and that's on the list too, straps, but sometimes you'll get a load that's so low that the little channels on the side are too high to do you any good. And after trying to figure that out, I would just, some warehouse that had a pile of them, I'd say, hey, can I have these? And sure, yeah, take them. I always kept like 2 load locks They fit in the side box, to go all the way through, and I put them on the bottom because I didn't use them often. But when you need them to secure that load, you have them. Okay. Straps, and I call them ponytail holders, but they're used to like fasten those car canopies and things like that. They're like great big, huge ponytail holders.
Yep.
Those are perfect. You roll your strap up, put one of those around it. Your strap's not in a knotted mess when you go to use it. Pins. Can't believe drivers show up, they don't have a pin.
Cotter pins? Is that what you're talking about? Or like a writing pin?
Ink pen.
Ink
you
pen.
gotta sign things.
Simple.
You go to check in and stuff, and they're like, I got a pen.
No, they got a pen knife, Denny, and they cut their finger and sign it in blood, right?
But pens, some paper. You may have to take notes, or here's what I used. I used these things. These little half-size legal pads. Paper logs. Make sure you got paper logs in case computer goes down. You got to go to paper logs. Have some paper logs. And also, another thing I always kept was a standard bill of lading, because there are places you'll go to that they don't have them. Mm-hmm. So that's my list for what it's worth.
I love it. And go ahead and forward that over to me. We will get that list of things that Denny used to keep on his truck, make sure he was prepared for any eventuality. It'll be in the podcast description for this week, so you'll be able to go on there, click the podcast, and have a ready-made list for you there. It'll be up there with the recipe from Bill's Big Rig Cafe and the description of this episode. And thank you for that, Denny. One thing you talked about there was a little bit of food. You mentioned peanut butter and bread. Anything like peanut butter or nuts or, jerky, freeze-dried stuff, anything that you can throw on the truck and forget about for months and months and months at a time is good here, because this is not the food that you're eating during the day on a normal Wednesday. This is the food that's got to get you through Wednesday through Friday when your truck is parked in the middle of nowhere because a bird hit it and screwed up your entire route. So this is in the true sense of the word, emergency stuff. Make sure it's got a bit of a shelf life. Otherwise, you're going to go in and open up some moldy peaches, and you're still going to be hungry, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, we've only got one thing left for you in this segment. Great stuff there, by the way. I love hearing about how people prepare, and also a peek behind the curtain, not only how you prepare, but how you organize, because that's a lot of stuff that you just read off, and you've got to have a little bit of organization to it. The ponytail holders.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Right. The ponytail holders just touch on the organization required to make sure that you have all this stuff ready to go at go time.
Just keep in mind that I stayed out for 4 to 5 weeks at a time, and I did not do laundry on the road. I brought that much with me, but being a Marine, I know how to pack.
Yeah, absolutely. How to pack and how to minimize the things that you bring along with you. So we've got something else that we want to talk about here. This is getting into a little bit more personal edge from us here, but you've got a Facebook post that you want to read to us, and I'll just go ahead and let you set that up. We already talked a little bit about back in 2019. We brought up that Joe Biden quote and how the world kind of changed in 2020. And I want you to set up this with the context of the date that this post was written and everything like that, and then I'm just going to let you kind of fire off and read it to us, because from what I hear, it's a really good one.
Well, I'll start out by reminding people of what happened to Rodney King. He was the trucker who was just doing his job, and there were riots going on in Los Angeles, and they yanked him out of that truck and beat the hell out of him. And, well, COVID was going on. That was a concern. But also the BLM thing was shutting down freeways, and they were doing the same thing. I'll tell you, first of all, I try to avoid trouble. So those places, that's where I learned secondary routes. I learned how to get from Albert Lee, Minnesota to completely past Minneapolis and not go through Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Mm-hmm. Which was one of the real hot areas during this whole, the Black Lives Matter protests and everything. Yeah.
Same thing with the St. Louis area. I learned a back road to get from Hannibal, Missouri over into Illinois without having to go through St. Louis. So that's the first thing, is you avoid the trouble if you can. But, obviously I'm out there. My wife's concerned. I'll tell you 2 things I did from the day I started driving. This is my full-size Marine Corps K-bar combat knife. This was zip tied to the seatbelt holder on my right side. I don't think I ever did anything but cut meat and tomatoes and stuff with it, but it was there.
Yeah, and that's probably a 6-7 inch fixed blade knife there?
This is a pretty good little handy weapon.
Yeah.
And
it's great for cutting tomatoes.
Dad taught me how to sharpen a knife. I could shave with that blade. Okay?
Wow. Okay. So a little bit of personal protection, a little bit of something right there.
Here's the one that stayed on my belt. Of course, being a Marine, this hung upside down on my belt, so I could draw it like this. It's in a Kydex sheath, so it just comes out like that. It's not quite as big, but it'll still get the job done.
Yes, sir.
And again, I've never had occasion to use it, but it was there, and it gave me peace of mind.
Well, you hope that you'll never have an occasion to use any of this stuff. That's the point is preparation, right? Don't you always want to need it, or have it and not need it, rather than need it and not have it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I use all this to preface this post because this is from my wife, and my wife knows I'm a Marine, and she knows that Marines are, there's no other way to put it, Marines are trained to kill.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we learned in boot camp was anatomy. When I hear on the news, so-and-so was stabbed 52 times, huh? If I had to stab you more than once to kill you, it would surprise me.
Right.
I know where to put the blade, okay?
That's so what they teach you in the Marines. That's a fact of life. All that
being said, and all these things that were going on in the world, and my wife's, could be 3,000 miles away, and she's worried about me. This is what she said, and this is a quote directly from my wife. She said, "To say I'm worried is an understatement. I know my husband well. He will not be victimized. He will defend himself at all costs. Most importantly, I worry about his safety, but I also worry about the consequences if something should happen. I worry about the other person's family and the aftermath legalities. Being the wife of a truck driver is not easy. Our relationship is a lot of texting and phone calls, but our love and trust for each other makes it tolerable. I worry constantly about the weather, or is he too tired to drive? I worry about other drivers, and I worry that he's not eating enough, or if he gets sick and I'm not there to take care of him. I worry about COVID-19 and all the closures along his route. I worry what evil is lurking around the parking lot where he's sleeping at night. This, on top of all the COVID-19 stress, I'm plumb tired. Please, always come home safe. I love you, Denny Stone. And for all you thugs out there, don't mess with my Marine."
That's great, man. I think that's a nice little peek into what the relationship with a truck driver looks like. And I know we've got a lot of drivers out there with spouses back home that are listening to that. And we know that your spouses think the exact same way. They have zero control over your situation at all times, and they worry about you constantly. And, it's something that, other than just saying we understand that and we sympathize on this podcast, it's really hard to experience. It's hard to know exactly what that feels like from either side, the driver's side or the spouse's side.
What I was fixing to say, because it's the other side. Something happens, the water heater goes out or the car breaks down, and I'm halfway across the continent. I can't do anything. I'm blessed that I have had good neighbors and friends that, they'll pick up the slack and help out. But I mean, it's stressful. You want to be there to help out, and you can't be. So it's a hard life, and it's hard to maintain a relationship, particularly if you don't have that trust. If the trust is not there, then I don't know how anybody could survive a life on the road.
Absolutely. Well, and to be fair here, Denny, you said if the water heater goes out or the car breaks down, we know you're not handy or mechanical. So if the car broke down, you're not going to be able to help anyway. You might as well be out on the road. But that's neither here nor there.
Thanks for that. That helped a lot.
You know what I'm good for, Denny. Great stuff there. Really appreciate you bringing that, because it's got some personal touch. Like you said, it's one thing if you just read it and it's a spouse of a driver. That's your wife that wrote that. And those are some real heavy and meaningful words there. And I'm happy that you had the great career in truck driving that you did, Denny, but I'm really glad that you're home with your spouse now, and you and your wife get to spend a lot more time together. I'm sure you're annoying the hell out of her at this point, right? It's been enough time.
She's been putting in 11-hour days. I don't get to see her much.
Oh, wow. Okay. So sooner or later, we hope that relaxes a little bit. You guys actually get to share some of the summer together.
Yeah, well, she'll be off tomorrow, so we'll have some fun.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all that stuff, Denny. And don't forget, if you want that list of things that Denny kept on his truck to stay prepared for any eventuality, we'll have that in the podcast description.
Okay. A few more things if I could touch on, if we've got the time, for just basically safety, more like truck stop safety than anything else. But things that you may not realize. We know it's hard to find a parking place, particularly into the evening and at night. But you may wonder, why trucks get damaged at truck stops. There are a lot of trainers that actually use the truck stop as a training place.
That makes sense.
So you get the newbies out there trying to learn the ropes. So I'll tell you a few things that I did. First of all, never, ever, ever, ever park on the end unless you absolutely have no choice. Because a
Get yourself
new truck
a
driver
buffer.
is liable to cut that corner too close, and the trailer's going to take the front end off your truck.
Yep. Get yourself a buffer. I had a driver from another podcast tell me exactly that. He had a brand new truck and he parked it at the truck stop and somebody pulled around on the first day and ripped his front fender off. And man, he was hot.
Of course, Gilly traveled with me. So my priority with truck stop was mainly to find where the good grass was so I could take him for a walk. So I was almost always at the back of the parking lot. I know some guys don't like to walk, but to me, I sit on my ass for 10 hours a day to walk into the truck stop unless it's really inclement weather. I mean, if you got a blizzard going on or something, yeah, I might search out that closer spot. But normally I park in the back and that's fine. I would never walk in between trucks. Like you got, say, 4 trucks that are parked and there's a little aisle in between. I would never walk. I'd go all the way around the end because I had a driver friend of mine that years ago, sadly we've lost him. He died of cancer, but he got caught one time. He was coming back from the truck stop and he knew this, but he was lazy or in a hurry and walked in between. First thing he knew, there was somebody coming at him face first. And then he turned around and there was somebody behind him. What saved him was 2 things. First of all, he was a Marine too. And secondly, he'd just bought a bag of ice and he hadn't busted it up yet. He about killed those 2 guys with that bag of ice. People had to pull him off of them. But that's what happens. They trap you in there. And, unless you've got a way to defend yourself or you're pretty tough, you can get in a bad situation. So walk around. Just walk around the end. Yeah, it's a few extra steps, but you probably use the exercise, honestly. Yep. So those are 2 things. Park in lighted areas if you can. Oh, when you get out of your truck, here's a habit that I got into when I thought I'd locked my key in the truck. I found it, luckily, that day, but I decided at that moment in time that I was always, without fail, going to lock my door with the key. That way I knew my key wasn't going to get locked inside, and I knew my truck was locked. And another thing, speaking of that, when I get in the truck, first thing I do is lock the door. I don't leave it open while I go put things away. I don't leave it unlocked while I walk around and do my inspection. That door is locked. Nobody's going to get in there and surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, imagine somebody waiting in your sleeper for you because you left the door unlocked to go check your load or something like that. That's terrifying. And if you don't mind, could you write in just very, very clear and easy to understand terms a paragraph about why you always lock your door with the key fob rather than locking it on the button on the door, and send it addressed to my wife, who has locked her keys in her car more times than I care to count? There's not even a key. You don't have to it's got a button that starts it. The fob should never leave your body. Sorry. Can you tell I'm a little frustrated at having to drive the emergency fob across town a couple of times in the past?
Oh, here's another one. And I can't take credit for this one. I never thought of this. I just did a little research and found it. It says, use your safety belt to add some extra security. Apparently, you can take your seatbelt, loop it through the door handle, and latch it in. Yep. And that way, even if they get through the locked door, they're still going to have to wrestle with this thing. Never even thought of that.
Good point.
I'll get a padlock. I even locked empty trailer because I've had people get in there and mess with it. Anyway, I never want to have to worry about it. So I lock them full or empty. Always put a padlock on them. And in case you don't feel comfortable with a knife or something different, there's a couple of options. Pepper spray would be a good one, maybe. Or I had a buddy that carried wasp spray.
Oh, okay.
Wasp spray is really good if you get them in the face with that, and you spray that stuff like 30 feet away.
Right.
So a couple of things that won't get you in trouble with the popo.
Exactly. And I've been maced before, not in a way where somebody sprayed me with mace, but we sprayed a stunt guy on our radio show with mace, and I got hit with wind. So just a slight gust of wind blew a tiny bit of mace or pepper spray onto my face, and I was down for like an hour and a half. So that stuff is incredibly effective. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I wasn't supposed to get maced that day.
I don't know about mace, but I know in boot camp, we all had to go through the tear gas chamber, which means, you go in there, they make you take your tear gas mask off, do calisthenics until you have to breathe that stuff in, and you come out with snot dripping all the way to the floor. And, it's nasty.
And then they give you water and stuff to let you kind of start to take that away, or do you guys have to sit there with it for after you've come out of the chamber?
I don't know what they do with the new Marines, but back in the day, you just had to recover.
Just had to sit with it. See, I see a lot of these where they're giving them a bunch of water and they're rinsing it off. I don't mean to sound like my radio career was the Marine Corps. It was nothing of the sort, and I am not that big of a man. But I had to sit there for the next 3 hours with the stuff just on my skin and do a damn radio show. It was terrible. Great stuff. I highly recommend it. I mean, my wife carries it when she runs because she doesn't want a knife or a gun or something like that. It's quick, it's easy, and it's effective.
Well, that's pretty much my list. I mean, basically, it's common sense and keeping your head up. I never, ever really had a conflict in all the years I was out there. But I think it was because my head's up, my eyes are looking. If I see somebody, I make eye contact with them. I avoid situations. I'm not walking around with my head down, staring at my phone, or searching for my keys or whatever. Like I told you, walk around the end of the rows. Don't walk in between the trucks. Just basically heads up and common sense, and hopefully you'll be safe. I mean, danger and assholes could come from anywhere, but the more you're prepared, basically, if you look like a victim, you're more likely to have trouble. If you don't look like a victim, they're going to go find somebody else to mess with.
Yeah. Some words that have never rung truer than they do during an election year, and that's that assholes can come from absolutely anywhere. So thank you, Denny. Great stuff there. Check the description for the list of all Denny's good stuff. We're out of time for this segment, but we've got more for you on the other side. Hang out.
Okay, drivers, got some rolling roadblocks, at least the possibility of them. In Reno this weekend, the 7th through the 9th, the Street Vibrations Motorcycle Rally. Also the 7th through the 9th in New York City, the Governor's Ball Festival. The Laconia Motorcycle Weeks in New Hampshire, the 8th through the 16th. And NASCAR is in Sonoma for the Toyota Save Mart 350 on the 9th. Y'all be careful out there. Time again for us to share some recipes, some tips, some good restaurants still out there. It's Eating on the Road, Bill's Big Rig Cafe. All right, drivers, today on Bill's Big Rig Cafe, we're making crock pot chicken leg quarters. I was lucky enough to find them already seasoned, so this is super easy for me. But it's not hard. You can use that Tony Creole seasoning that I use for almost everything, maybe a barbecue dry rub, or just salt and pepper. If you want to put a little barbecue sauce in there, it's not going to hurt anything if you just want to do that. You really don't need the extra liquid, but it's not a bad idea. You need a crock pot liner to keep the mess down, some paper towels and wipes, probably a paper plate, and whatever sides that you want to go with it. You might use, like today, I'm going to use a tub of mashed potatoes, or that little tub of Rice-A-Roni is good. Or if you're lucky enough to go inside, they got some fresh tater wedges or maybe potato salad or something. That'd be good. Some coleslaw, just whatever you want. So again, take that crock pot liner. Be real careful you don't poke any holes in it, because if that thing remains intact, you'll have virtually no mess. A quick wipe and you're done. And you know as well as I do, trying to take a crock pot inside the Love's bathroom and try to clean it out, it's a pain. Just stick these things in there. I've got 4 of them here, and that's going to be way more than I can eat. So count on leftovers. Have something to put them in. Like freezer bags, that's always good because that doesn't take up as much room as a container. But like I said, this stuff's going to be fall off the bone tender when you get done. So if you're driving a long day, set it on 8 hours on low. If you're driving a short day, 4 hours on high will cook these things where they're, like I said, fall off the bone tender. Hey, while we're waiting on this to cook, let me tell you, of course, we're going to time-lapse this, but another place you want to eat, that friend I told you about that took that big, long tour, went to Lambert's Cafe. Now, they've got a location in Alabama I've never been to, but I have been both the other ones. I-55 at exit 67 in Sikeston and US 65 in Ozark, Missouri, just south of Springfield. Both of them do have truck parking. Great places to eat. All right, here we go. It's been a few hours later. Take the lid off. These things are so good. Like I said, I'm going to make, a little tub of mashed potatoes, which is, as easy as can be. Nothing to it. Again, I'm always conscious of the mess on the truck. So these little containers, you don't have any mess. You're probably not going to have any leftovers. So you just take the top off, you put a little water in there, stick it in the microwave, nuke it for about a minute or so, and we're gonna have a good dinner. I was lucky enough that, of course, I went in and got the chicken. At the same time, I found some tomatoes that looked really good, so I'm gonna slice some of those up. So I'm gonna have the chicken leg quarter, some mashed potatoes, and a little tomato to have with it. Oh, good stuff, man. Also want to tell you about another place while I got a minute. Dale Summers actually shared this on the H&M Friends page. Said found an amazing new restaurant in Pennsylvania, I-80 exit 192. Kavka's, hope I said that right, Kavka's Restaurant, Kavkaz. They have free parking if you buy food. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. A little pricey, but definitely not bad. Guarantee you'll get your money's worth. If you leave hungry, you must eat an awful lot more than I do. Eastern European food, excellent. So thank you, Dale, for that suggestion. Like I said, I found some good maters, some good homegrown vine ripened. Well, homegrown. I got them in the store. But anyway, just slice some of those dudes up. I always kept a K-bar, Marine Corps combat knife that was really sharp on the truck, and that's what I used for slicing up stuff like this. And here's the paper plate, so again, little or no mess. If I was on the truck, I'd have probably sliced these on the paper plate, but hey, I'm home. I'm retired. I'm an old fart now. So, all right. So we got the chicken done, got the maters cut up. Let's check on these mashed potatoes here. See if they're done. I'm ready to eat, man. It's making me hungry. Wish y'all could smell this. Oh, it smells so good. All right. Probably one of these is going to be plenty. Look at that. Look at bones not even. I probably got to go. Look at that. It's just falling apart. I should have gotten a spoon to get this stuff out. Oh, and it's so good. You could make some soft tacos with this or fajitas. Any number. In fact, maybe I should have put some peppers and onions in there with that. Then I'd have been ready for the fajitas. Good stuff. Clean up. Unless you broke the liner, should be easy. You just, get everything out of there, lift the liner out, wipe it out with your disposable wipes, dry the crock pot with paper towels. Crock Pot Chicken Leg Quarters. Today's feature on Bill's Big Rig Cafe. Y'all enjoy and we'll catch you next time. Man, I sure would love to hear from y'all. If you know a restaurant out there that you've eaten at that's really good, let's share it. Or maybe a recipe or a trick you've got or a tip. Hey, contact me. Reach out at denny@bulldog.works. That's denny@bulldog.works. We'll catch you next time on Bill's Big Rig Cafe.
All right, H&M Trucking, that's going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much for being here for episode 61. Hope you got everything out of it that we did. Denny and I had a good time just laughing with each other in that last little segment there, but very good stuff earlier in the episode from Brian Burge. Definitely, not a job that I would want, not a job that Denny wants, not a job that my editor Mike wants, not a job that my YouTube wizard Haley wants. Not a job that anybody wants. That job that Brian Burge volunteered for. He stepped up because nobody else was to help out Trent Hlavek with the H&M Friends Facebook page, and we can't thank him enough. It's a great resource for you drivers to get on there, talk to other drivers, kind of figure some stuff out if you're having some trouble, or maybe just find a good place to park when you can't find one. It will help you out with a lot of things, and that's why we tip our caps to Brian for doing the great job that he does with the H&M Trucking Friends Facebook page. Got to give it up to my co-host, Denny, of course. Thank you so much. He's great. My editor, Mike, my YouTube wizard, Haley, Jackson back there in the home office helping set these interviews up. And there's a laundry list of other people that we could get to, but we don't have time right now because I have to reset something. You guys, we've been doing this podcast for so long that I have to reset a thing. That's pretty awesome for me. And it's actually... it came to me because, you guys hear me mention them. My parents, they're two of my biggest fans. They probably are my two biggest fans, to be honest with you. I live with my wife, so I could understand her not being my biggest fan. It's rough around here. This mouth never stops moving. But my mom sent me a text the other day, and she goes, "Hey, what's Stay Fresh cheese bags? Like, where did that come from?" And I got to actually tell her, and I was thinking about it. We've been doing this for more than a year at this point. There's been a lot of drivers that have joined H&M in the course of that year that hear me say Stay Fresh cheese bags and probably never went back to the very first episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast where Eve and I discussed what my catchphrase would be. What am I going to say to sign off the show that's cool and it's edgy and it's fun and hopefully it makes people smile? And I was going through, I had a laundry list of these things, like 5 of them. And basically, Eve told me that they were all hot garbage, which they were. I'm not going to say her judgment was spot on. These weren't any good. But the one that she did like, it just so happened to come from a random trip to a Walmart, man. I was walking through the cheese aisle, and there hanging on the rack, I saw a product called Stay Fresh cheese bags. And I thought, hey, if you put a comma in there, Stay Fresh cheese bags goes from a wonderful product to keep your cheese fresh and not moldy to the sweetest sign-off that any podcast host has ever had. I get to say that to you guys. And now, since we've reset it, you understand where it comes from. You get the lore that we've built behind this thing. I will tell you, you get to say it too, and you'll get a sweet gift, courtesy of the podcast and H&M Trucking, if you go and say the sign-off, Stay Fresh cheese bags, to Eve and Sherry. I can't tell you what the gift is. I know that the grapevine is singing right now, like the California raisins, about what it is. There's somebody around here that'll tell you, it ain't going to be me. I'm going to keep it a secret until it gets blown up on this podcast sometime later. And trust me, when that happens, it'll probably be my mistake and an accident, but it will happen. If you want the free gift, which is the sweetest thing we've ever had to give anybody that I've ever been associated with a podcast for, look, I can sit here and tell you all goddamn day that this is a sweet gift. You need to find out, and it's free. You don't have to do anything other than say, Stay Fresh cheese bags. I will tell you right now, if you walk up and say, hey, where's my gift? They'll send you back to the barn, all right? Even Sherry are tossing people like a big league umpire right now if you don't come up and say, Stay Fresh cheese bags. It's that simple, and it'll get you a free gift. I wonder what it is. I bet it's not sweet. Oh, just kidding. It's the coolest thing ever. I gotta go. I've been wasting time a lot today. I'm sorry. I'm kind of in a chatty mood. Can't wait till the wife gets home. She's gonna be so excited. Stay Fresh cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.